Explain, okay? But
all day, all year round.
it's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are. WAVR.
News, talk, music, get it all
24 hours
on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Niamey. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink, live on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Senegal hosts 10th edition of the Dakar International Forum on Peace and Security. Nigerian security forces rescue victims of April 15 Benue adoption.
One of the most critical components of Nigeria winning this battle, winning this war against insurgency, against banditry, any of the challenges that we have is intelligence gathering.
West African leaders meet in Lomé to forge new ties between ECOWAS and the Confederation of Sahel States. And opposition in the Gambia raises alarm over alleged voter fraud in the West Coast region as registration enters a critical phase.
Although whether it is proof or not, it will definitely erode the public trust. Well, what we need now is immediate impact. It has definitely caused an immediate impact on public trust in the voter registration process.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
And thanks for joining us. We begin right here in Senegal as the country is hosting the 10th edition of the Dakar International Forum on Peace and Security today. It is a major continental event focused on stability, integration, and African sovereignty in the presence of several heads of state, including Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, and Mauritanian President Mohamed Ould Cheikh El Ghazouani. Placed under the theme, Africa facing the challenges of stability, integration, and sovereignty, what sustainable solutions? This anniversary edition aims to develop concrete answers to the increase in security threats on the continent. President Bio is participating in his dual capacity as head of state and current chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. Now to Togo, where West African leaders are exploring new avenues for cooperation between the Confederation of Sahel States and ECOWAS following a high-level meeting in Lomé. The talks held on the sidelines of discussions on the Togo Sahel strategy focused on strengthening regional integration and improving the well-being of citizens across the sub-region. Abdullahi Hassan reports.
The high-level meeting between foreign ministers of the Confederation of Sahel States, AES, and ECOWAS officials in Lomé is raising prospects for renewed regional cooperation. The April 17 talks brought together Togo's Foreign Minister, Professor Robert Dussey, his counterparts from Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, as well as ECOWAS Commission President, Dr. Umar Aliou Touré, and the bloc's chief negotiator, Lansana Kouyaté. Originally planned as an informal engagement, the meeting introduced the ECOWAS negotiator to AES ministers ahead of his mission, while also allowing both sides to align expectations. Discussions focused on preserving gains in regional integration and promoting the welfare of West African populations despite shifting political dynamics. Participants also agreed on the need to establish a formal framework to serve as a legal basis for structural cooperation between ECOWAS and the AES blocs. The AES ministers reaffirmed their openness to dialogue and willingness to support the process, while Togo reiterated its intention to act as a bridge between the two blocs. The meeting is being seen as a step toward rebuilding trust and strengthening cooperation in a changing regional landscape.
Abdullahi Hassan with that report. Still on security issues, Niger's defense minister has underscored the importance of civilian involvement in addressing the country's security challenges, saying the fight against insecurity goes beyond military forces. The message was delivered during a televised interview on state broadcaster Tele Sahel. Imo Edit tells us more.
Niger's Minister of State for Defense, General Salifu Modi, has highlighted the critical role of civilians in tackling the country's security situation. Speaking to journalists on national television, the minister reviewed the past year, pointing to both progress and ongoing threats. He also reacted to the recent attack targeting Niamey's airport, acknowledging that certain security gaps were exposed.
If a column of motorcycles arrived, did they inform the forces? And if someone did inform them, let them come forward and say so. The population is organized into neighborhoods, districts, heads, cantons, and so on. To reach the administrative authorities, there is a whole chain and mechanism in place to do this. That people can move throughout Niger, stay in villages, well, I think we must not give in to what was said earlier. I said our war is currently facing an intense media war.
The defense minister further addressed the emergence of community vigilance brigades in major cities, largely driven by young supporters of the military-led government. He described the initiative as patriotic, but stressed the need for proper coordination and alignment with national security structures.
These mercenaries are people who infiltrate. They are people who, when everything is calm and everything is fine, that is when they pass through to do their thing. But when we know that at any moment, as soon as we shout thief, help will come, I think they will think twice before coming out. Now, if what you call the music allows people to be awakened, to be there to say that we are here to defend our country, I don't see where that can cause a problem. But the goal of the general mobilization to return that is truly to put into the minds of our compatriots that it is up to us to defend our country.
C'est véritablement de faire mettre dans l'esprit de nos compatriotes que c'est à nous de défendre notre pays.
Authorities say efforts are underway to professionalize these groups as part of broader measures to strengthen internal security. The government maintains that closer collaboration between civilians and security forces remains key as Niger continues to face intensified terrorist attacks.
WDR's Niamey correspondent Yakuba Habibullah's report presented by Imo Edit. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, some of the victims kidnapped on April 15, 2026 along the Makurdi-Atukpo Road in Benue State have now been rescued. The incident, which initially sparked concerns over the safety of students, continues to raise questions about security on Nigeria's highways. WDR's correspondent Yechenu Sasetu has the details.
The victims were part of a group kidnapped earlier in the week when armed men attacked a commercial bus traveling towards Otukpo, Benue State. Security operatives had launched a coordinated search operation following the incident, intensifying efforts across surrounding areas. While details of the rescue operation remain limited, the victims are said to have been freed after spending several days in captivity and have since been taken to a medical facility for treatment. Reacting to the development, security expert Olumayo Olani can be attributed to the Nigerian army being proactive.
At this point, I think we are taking the fight to the insurgents or to the bandits, and we are starting to see some very meaningful results. Before, what we used to record is that we only respond or react to the attacks by these guys. But now we go all out. We attack them too. The other thing is that our intelligence is working better. And one of the reasons that you can attribute to the improvement in intelligence level will be the support that we got from U.S. government in terms of ISR.
According to him, a critical component in curbing insurgency is intelligence gathering and support for troops.
One of the most critical components of Nigeria winning this battle, winning this war against insurgency, against banditry, any of the challenges that we have is intelligence gathering. And of course, because of the deployment of technology, now we have drones, we have the Reaper staying above for hours, trying to gather intelligence. And of course, this intelligence translates to actual action by boots on the ground, it is helping Nigeria in this fight against insurgency or against banditry.
Authorities say efforts are ongoing to ensure the safety of other victims and to track down those responsible. The incident continues to highlight growing concerns about insecurity on major highways, especially as students and travelers move across the country. For WADR, Yechinisa Situ in Abuja.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, let's now bring you news about Pan-African activist Kemin Seba, who is appearing in court today, April 20, in South Africa. His legal proceedings continue over allegations of illegal migration and questions surrounding his residency status. This process follows the arrest of Seba and his son alongside a South African national on April 13 in Pretoria. Authorities suspect the group of involvement in a network facilitating clandestine crossing into Zimbabwe via the Limpopo River, allegedly as part of routes leading towards Europe. The three appeared briefly in court on April 15 and were remanded in custody. Today's court section is expected to shed more light on the legal process and possible outcomes. Let's focus on the Gambia's West Coast region now, where tensions are mounting in the town of Tangier following allegations of voter registration fraud involving supporters of the ruling National People's Party. The opposition, United Democratic Party, claims individuals linked to the NPP attempted to register non-Gambians during the ongoing supplementary voter registration exercise. However, the NPP denies the accusations, describing them as false and politically motivated. From Banjul, WADR's Sandona Mendy reports.
Tension flared at a voter registration center in Tangier in the West Coast region after allegations of attempts to register non-Gambians. The United Democratic Party says its team apprehended individuals allegedly linked to the ruling NPP who are issuing national birth certificates to foreigners. A party official, Babukar Siddiqui Jammeh, says the suspects were taken to Bruceby police station, describing the act as criminal. The NPP has rejected the claims, with deputy spokesperson Sidi Eskinjai calling them misleading and politically driven, while urging authorities to investigate. Political analyst Yoram Balo warns that the allegations, if proven, could undermine the public confidence in the electoral process.
The clash in Tangier between the UDP and NPP over alleged registration of non-Gambians illustrate a cold truth of election. The allegations themselves have consequences even before facts are established. Well, what is needed to be done now is to prove whether it is proof or not, it will definitely erode the public trust. Well, what we need now is immediate impact. It has definitely caused an immediate impact on public trust in the voter registration process. Well, the register is rigged becomes already a default belief. Now, most citizens don't read IEC reports. Well, they hear party accusation. Well, if IEC stays silent, the accusation becomes the narrative.
Police have yet to confirm any arrest or investigations. The allegations comes as the Independent Electoral Commission continues its nationwide supplementary voter registration exercise scheduled to run until May 21st. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Sangdana Mendy reporting from Banjul.
Elsewhere, Liberia has officially launched the construction of its long-awaited Western Corridor Highway project connecting Sierra Leone. It is $363.9 million initiative aimed at boosting regional connectivity and economic growth. The 255 kilometers road network seeks to improve significant transportation links across the country's western region. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports.
The Western Corridor Highway project forms part of Liberia's broader infrastructure drive to strengthen transportation systems, enhance regional trade, and to promote inclusive economic development. Spanning 255 kilometers, the project will cover 5 key road corridors, including dual carriageway from St. Paul Bridge to Clay to Bow Waterside, Tottenberg to Medina to Rabosport, as well as Vonjema to Kolahun, and extending to Mendikoma At the launch ceremony, President Joseph Boakai said the project would help reduce the transportation costs and improve access to previously underserved communities.
This project is about people. It will create more than 1,000 jobs for our young people, bring markets closer to farmers. By 2030, we expect to see a transformed Western Corridor.
The project, to be executed by a construction firm from Sierra Leone, is expected to take 5 years to complete. It will subsequently transition into a public-private partnership model for tolling, operations, and long-term maintenance. Also speaking at the event, Sierra Leone's President Julius Matabio highlighted the regional importance of the highway, describing it as a critical link for strengthening economic cooperation in West Africa.
As ECOWAS Chair, I'm calling on ECOWAS Commission and all multilateral partners to study this model. It is roads like this that make it possible for us to integrate and benefit from the big market that we have.
The Western Corridor Highway is expected to serve as a major economic artery linking Liberia's western region with Sierra Leone and Guinea while advancing regional integration and trade. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegal hosts the 10th edition of Dakar International Forum on Peace and Security. Nigerian security forces rescue victims of April 15 Benue State adoption. West African leaders meet in Lomé to forge new ties between ECOWAS and the Confederation of Sahel States. And opposition in the Gambia raises alarm over alleged voter fraud in the West Coast region as registration enters a critical phase. Still ahead in the news, we have a press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. We now turn to diplomatic news as Ghana's Vice President Jean Nana Opoku-Agyeman is calling for more balanced economic relations between the country and Spain. She urges greater support for Ghanaian businesses to expand into the Spanish market. The Vice President's remarks come as both countries prepare to mark 60 years of diplomatic relations in 2027. Nadia Dititi tells us more.
Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman has called for stronger reciprocity in economic relations between Ghana and Spain, pointing out that while Spanish companies are thriving in Ghana, Ghanaian businesses have yet to establish a significant footprint in Spain. Speaking after the fourth high-level meeting of the Defense in Democracy Summit, she stressed the need for both countries to support each other's enterprises and work towards a shared long-term vision. She highlighted the importance of ensuring balanced representation, noting that Spain has maintained a strong business presence in Ghana over the years.
Support each other, work with each other, and just keep your eyes on the bigger vision. The minister just said that it's going to be 60 years in Ghana-Spain relations. What I want to see, very simple. Spain has been in Ghana for as long as Ghana has been in Spain. Where is our equivalent of GV foods from Ghana in Spain? That's what I hear.
Meanwhile, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has also called for deeper diplomatic and economic engagement between the two countries. He indicated that although annual trade between Ghana and Spain is estimated at about $300 million, the current level of engagement remains limited and should be expanded into other areas of cooperation. Mr. Ablakwa added that the upcoming 60th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Ghana and Spain in 2027 represents a strategic opportunity to strengthen partnerships and unlock new avenues for collaboration. For WADR, Nadi Teti, Accra.
Traveling back to the Central Sahel region, this time in Burkina Faso, where the Prime Minister has explained the recent dissolution of 118 humanitarian associations. According to the state, the organizations were not in compliance with legal requirements, including the lack of registration scripts or receipts or failure to renew their governing bodies. Usma Uma explains the details.
It was in Wahigoya in the northern region that Prime Minister Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo explained the reasons behind the dissolution of the 118 associations on April 15. These associations, due to the non-compliance of a certain number of obligations, are deemed dissolved. It is as if they no longer even exist. Their registration receipts are no longer up to date, and their governing bodies have never been renewed. Therefore, according to the law, these associations actually have ceased to exist on their own. We are hearing the complaints on the international stage, but that will not distract us. He said the decision is based on the application of a new law on associations and NGOs adopted in 2025. The Prime Minister noted that the affected organizations were operating outside regulatory operations, particularly in terms of administrative compliance, and indicated that additional measures will follow. All associations and NGOs must return and register and work within the established rules to ensure that everyone is working for the common good. Today, we have toxic imperialist partners whom we have expelled from Burkina Faso. However, when we look closely, though we have kicked them out through the door, they continue their manipulation and subversion through the window. The dissolved associations were mainly active in humanitarian and human rights work. In an earlier statement announcing the dissolution, the Minister of Territorial Administration did not provide details of the reasons behind the decision.
WDR's Wakadugu correspondent Martin Kabat's report presented by Usma Uma.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's return to Abuja for the press review with Yeche Nusasetu.
We begin today with Guardian. Election data at risk as hackers hold government agencies, banks to ransom. Concerns over Independent National Electoral Commission server ahead of election. House of Representatives Committee hails Dangote Refinery as Nigeria becomes net petrol exporter. About 44.9% of children in Nigeria sleep inside insecticide-treated nets, while 55% others remain unprotected from mosquito bites that spread malaria. This is according to Nigeria Malaria Indicator Survey 2025 and now Vanguard. Nigerian Breweries PLC highlights strategies aimed at sustaining companies' growth and protecting customers from pricing shocks occasioned by rising inflation. Tinubu must complete Southern tenure. This is a call by Arewa Youth Assembly, cautioning northern politicians against contesting the 2027 presidential election. And here is assurance from the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission saying it has not banned airtime, borrowing, or data advance services in Nigeria. And that's it on Press Review. Back to you in the studio.
Yeche Nusasetu with the press review from Abuja.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
The guest interview focuses on the recent meeting of foreign ministers from the Confederation of Sahel States and officials of ECOWAS held during the weekend in Lomé, Togo. Discussions focused on preserving gains in regional integration and promoting the welfare of West African populations despite shifting political dynamics and worsening insecurity. Our guest is Bakari Sam, Executive Director of Timbuktu Institute, African Center for Peace Studies.
Yeah, it was a very interesting meeting organized by Togolese government about the way to find solution in order to make ECOWAS countries and IOS countries working together due to the very urgent situation in the region in terms of security, in terms of different threats. And I think that the first achievement by the Togo government was to have around the same table the IOS countries, ECOWAS, African Union, European Union, France, Russia, and other actors active in the region.
You were at this important meeting. How concrete are the decisions made during the discussions?
The major convergence that emerged strongly from the discussion is the emphatic call for African ownership of solution to Sahel crisis. Every speaker underscored that the challenges facing the region, like terrorism, instability, and development, can only be durably addressed through indigenous African-driven initiatives that are deeply rooted in local reality and culture and the priority of the region. So it was something very interesting. We reinforce the point by insisting that the population of the Sahel demand on home ground answers that respect sovereignty and reflect African agency, thereby positioning the strategy not as just a Togolese project alone, but as a genuinely Pan-African platform owned and shaped by the continent.
Amid tensions when it comes to insecurity in the sub-region, there is this proposal to establish a formal legal framework for cooperation between ECOWAS and the AES. The question remains, how realistic is this particular proposal when it comes to the legal framework for cooperation?
While the strategy embraces the long-term diplomacy of dialogue and trust building, it must be accompanied by immediate concrete action to confront the terrorist threat. I call it a rapid creation of a directed military and technical channels between ECOWAS and AES countries. And I think that the representative of the International Center for Research and Studies of the Sahel advocated geographical expansion toward the Lake Chad Basin and praised the Niger model, for example, military solution. When the civil society also, they call to have a kind of synergy between the countries in spite of the official separation between the two spaces. The thing is, ECOWAS is here, but IS is becoming a political reality we have to deal with. And even the United Nations welcomed the initiative as fully aligned with African-led peace platform, confirming that Lomé is perceived now as a neutral yet engaged decompression chamber capable of reconnecting the Sahel with ECOWAS and the rest of the continent. And it was, I think, this context that made the participant to discuss all the issue, and frankly, and it was, from my perspective, something very interesting.
How might this renewed dialogue impact ongoing security challenges?
I think that the meeting was first timely. It was after all these polarization discussions, listening to the AS country representative. Now there is a common consciousness that it's time to talk together due to the very urgent security situation.
Bakarat Sam is the executive director of the Timbuktu Institute African Center for Peace Studies. Now, in the world of sports, a former Nigerian athlete Isaac Otugbisan, now widely known in professional wrestling cycle as Obafemi, delivered one of the biggest moments of the year by defeating Brock Lesnar on his WrestleMania debut. The highly anticipated clash saw the Nigerian powerhouse step onto wrestling's Grand Styles stage for the very first time, and he made sure the occasion will never be forgotten. The victory marks a major milestone for the Nigerian athlete. In soccer, Ghana's Under-17 women's national team, the Ghana Black Star Maidens, delivered a commanding performance to secure an emphatic 8-0 aggregate victory over Togo's women's national Under-17 football team in the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifiers. They will next face Liberia's women's national Under-17 football team in the subsequent round, where a tougher challenge is expected as the competition intensifies. And that's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudou Ju for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Bilkerly. Good afternoon.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Graft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.